Hello, my name is Professor Tony Gist, and I'm going to teach you how to be a nutrition detective. So join me for the next, I don't know, half hour, 45 minutes or so, and let's dive into the topic. And as we do, it's always best to have some visuals. So let me start by sharing my screen. And so we are going to really look at our food, things we want to eat, things we are eating, and we want to better understand what it is that is in that food and how it may impact our overall health. So we have some very clear learning objectives here, and we'll call this chapter one. So this chapter one is being able to empower you to learn about who you can turn to for reputable sources. So, we want to first define nutrition and showcase its importance. We're then going to move on to discuss how scientists even find out nutrition information. We're going to identify common myths and misconceptions in nutrition, and there are a lot of them. We're only going to identify a few. We're going to discern who you can turn to for reliable nutrition information, and then we're going to help you figure out some tips on healthful eating on a budget. I know that I myself am someone who definitely keeps budget in mind when I'm choosing my foodstuffs. So, with learning objective one, define nutrition. This is the study of how foodstuffs, food, drink, supplements, alcohol, other things affect health and well being. So, we want to understand how these things are going to impact our health and well being. But we then need to figure out what's health? What does that even mean? And the World Health Organization, an expert on health, if you do ask me, said that health is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well being, not merely the absence of disease or infirmary. So they're looking at a holistic picture, which I love. And I would agree with this definition. And if we take it a step further and we look at well being encompasses the quality of life. Fantastic. And the ability of people and societies to contribute to the world with a sense of meaning and purpose. And this is one of the reasons why individuals might choose certain dietary patterns because they feel that it's going to contribute to both their health as well as well being in general. Pause for a moment though and think about what it is that you ate yesterday. What'd you have? Share it with a friend, share it with someone in class, share it with someone online, but kind of step back and then think about, did you choose those foods due to their contribution to health? Or did you choose them for another reason? And as you do, if you're working through your book, we have a step. It's kind of like a step to a healthier you. Every single chapter has you reflect critically on your diet itself and really look at it from a health perspective. So, myself, I chose a bowl that half of the bowl was like a crispy chopped salad, and the other half of the bowl was this hot enchilada. And so I would literally take like a bite of the salad, a bite of the enchilada, a bite of the salad. And the reason I chose that bowl was because the enchilada was delicious. It was leftovers. It was relatively inexpensive. It was in the fridge and very convenient. The chopped salad that I added to the side of it was for nutrient density and nutritional benefits. But for us to say that we're choosing foods because they're more healthful, we kind of need to understand the five characteristics of a healthful diet. And those five characteristics or principles of a healthful diet are going to be something that it's going to carry throughout this book and your experience with me as I walk you through it. The first characteristic is adequacy. Are you even getting enough of the nutrients? If you don't have enough vitamin C in your diet, you have a diet that is inadequate. It's not meeting your needs. It is not a characteristic that we want to overlook. We want to ensure that we're getting enough or an adequate amount of those essential nutrients, the nutrients we need to have in our diet, or else our health starts to fail. We also want to have variety. We don't want to have the same foods every single day. You don't want to say, okay, for breakfast, I have a banana and a glass of milk. For lunch, I have a sandwich and chips and an apple. For dinner, no, 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 no. If you have the same exact breakfast, lunch, and dinner every single day, then ultimately anywhere where your diet is deficient in a certain vitamin or mineral, that will be amplified as you continue on that pattern. Or some if you have a diet that's really high in any one thing, like let's say it's too high in sodium, then you're going to keep having a high sodium diet on a regular basis, and it's not going to be best for you. So variety helps with any deficiencies you might have in your diet, and it allows you to get some benefits of a lot of different foodstuffs. We also want balance. We want to select foods from each food group. And when we talk about food group, there are so many different dietary patterns, such as the Mediterranean diet, My Plate, Harvard Healthy Eating Plate. All of those have different food groups, and they are set in a way where it's very easy for you to look at those dietary recommendations or patterns and then decide, hmm, can I consume foods from that group? And if you cannot, then you need to understand what nutrient or nutrient subclass that group contains. And then you could alternate different foods that might allow you to meet that nutritional need. So, for example, if you're someone who's looking at My Plate, they do have a milk or dairy group. If you're someone who's lactose intolerant or you choose not to have dairy for a variety of reasons, just understand that that group is there because it's calcium, vitamin D, and protein rich. So just choose other foods that have calcium, vitamin D, and protein in them, and you should be good. As we continue on, we want moderation. I know we all love cookies. We all love mashed potatoes. Maybe not everyone, but most of us do like those things. And those are food items that are easy to overconsume. So if you're consuming way too much of those, it's not going to be good for you. But you might think, well, I like Brussels sprouts. Even consuming too many Brussels sprouts can be bad for your overall health. And we're going to discuss why later in future chapters. We also want to choose foods that are nutrient dense. So that salad that I had was very high in vitamins and minerals and very low in calories. It didn't even have any dressing on it because I was kind of eating a raw salad next to that very well seasoned enchilada. So that salad itself alone was very nutrient dense, high in vitamins and minerals or those micronutrients, and very low in calories. So these are the characteristics that we're going to keep turning to almost every single chapter as we talk about this topic. Moving forward to showing you why it's important to learn about nutrition. We do have QR codes throughout this presentation, and the reason being, if you want to investigate it further, here are some of the reputable sources, and you can deep dive into some hard-hitting topics in a way that's kind of meaningful. So with nutrition, very few subjects are as impactful as nutrition. Maybe I'm just biased. Maybe there are other things. However, you should be eating every day, multiple times a day, and you get to make a choice as to what you put in your body that becomes part of your body. And it's going to have an effect on your health and well-being, like we said. And you are what you eat. How do you think you got the structural materials for your hands, for your feet, for your eyes? It is from the foodstuffs that you eat and drink. And your food also impacts your health in a variety of ways. And we're going to continue to talk about that. So it's recommended that you eat every day. I know that seems pretty self-explanatory, but there are some individuals who are like, oh, I'm going to fast for 3 or 4 days in a row, and then I'm going to eat whatever I want for 3 or 4 days. We will discuss later why that may not be the best choice. Even exercise recommendations from the CDC, the Center for Disease Control, very reputable source, they are recommending exercise that you're tracking and that's vigorous less than every day. But food, you're supposed to have every day. So the recommendation from the CDC is 150 minutes of moderate intensity exercise per week and 2 days of muscle strengthening, like resistance training. However, the CDC also says eat your food every day and drink your water every day. Those things. So very, very impactful. And I'm going to share with you a little bit of a sad story. So apologies in advance. I share it for educational purposes and so that you can understand that I'm passionate about this topic because it hits so close to home. So here are 2 pictures. The first picture on the upper left-hand corner is my father. in his last few years of life. And then that's my mom caring for him over in the nursing home. And then down below is his older brother, my uncle Gene. And my older brother, or my uncle, is there with myself, my sister-in-law, my daughter, my son. My uncle gets to spend time with my children because he's still here on this planet and he has a good quality of life. Very unfortunately, my father made choices that were not the best for his overall health. He did choose a poor diet. He enjoyed food quite a bit, but he also enjoyed foods that maybe didn't contribute to his health and well-being. He had a very sedentary lifestyle. He was an entrepreneur and worked extremely hard to support our family, but he was tethered to a desk day and a lot of nights. And he also chose to smoke. So, and he smoked 2 to 3 packs of cigarettes a day. There were times he would literally be, eating a meal and he'd have a fork in one hand and a cigarette in the other. So he'd be like smoking, eating, smoking, eating. So that is how much he did smoke. Whereas my uncle made choices that were in alignment with the recommendations. My uncle paid attention to healthful food choices. He was a triathlete even into his later years, and he was a non-smoker. And if he drank alcohol, he drank it in moderation. And my uncle, I will say, he's still with us today as I make this video. My father has passed away about 10 years ago. And so I've missed out on critical years with my dad. And so seeing this disparity between my dad and his older brother and their health has really made it my life mission to get accurate information out. So let's talk about how nutrition does have a very strong importance when it comes to chronic diseases. And when we talk about chronic diseases, we're discussing things like heart disease, obesity, high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, and some types of cancers. And so the American Heart Association is another very reputable source, and they tell us for nutrition to have a fantastic impact, we want to get lots of good foods in, lots of healthy, lower sugar fruits, lots of very brightly colored vegetables and fruits. We want to have less of the processed foods, less of the things that won't be as beneficial for us. We want to make sure that we're having things that are not causing us to gain adipose tissue that's not going to benefit our health in a lot of ways. And we want to be including things that are what we call kind of like superfoods, or things that have a lot of phytochemicals or zoochemicals in them that will benefit us. So we want to make choices that are going to decrease our likelihood of these chronic diseases. But not only does nutrition have a major impact on chronic diseases, it actually has an impact on acute responses to diseases too. For example, hydration and mineral balance is going to be critical for life. And so we have horrible contests where individuals who are like radio disc jockeys or DJs will post something called Hold Your Wii for a Wii. So when the Wii gaming systems were really, really popular a few years ago or many years ago, they had 3 different contestants that were challenged to drink as much liquid as possible, as much water as possible in a short period of time. And they would have to hold their urine. So if they didn't go pee and they drank as much liquid as possible within this designated period of time, whoever drank the most and didn't pee won this Wii gaming system. Well, there was a mother who wanted to win the gaming system for her child, and she drank the most water, did not pee, held it in, and then won the gaming system, went to the bathroom, went home, but she had induced a water electrolyte imbalance. She had what we call hyponatremia. Hypo is too little, na is sodium. So it's going to be too little sodium relative to the body's needs. And so she had diluted out her blood so much, her brain swelled, and she actually passed away, which is very, very sad. And then even more recently, there's a mother that died from overhydration. And so you can read the article here and see posts about it on social media as well. There are individuals who die from supplement overconsumption. As few as 10 iron tablets can kill a small child. And so there's an article that highlights it, so you can download the PowerPoint and you can click on the article if you want to read more. You can also read about recent athletic supplement deaths that happen. So understand that there actually isn't any regulating body overseeing supplements or their usage. So taking time to learn about this concept, through watching videos like this and engaging with the book is definitely going to be of your benefit. And then protein needs. People assume that they need way more protein than they really do. To meet your basic needs, you only need 0.8 to 1.6 grams of protein per kilogram body weight per day. And so if you're over consuming this protein, it can be linked to disorders of your kidneys or renal function, disorders of liver function, an increased risk of kidney stones. And you could read more about your protein needs by, again, downloading the PowerPoint and clicking on an article and reading it. But what does the National Institute for Health say about nutrition's importance? And we do have an article, which I'm quoting here, and they say scientific evidence shows that healthful eating patterns can help people achieve and maintain well-being and reduce their chances of chronic diseases. So now you know those definitions, you understand. And again, scientific evidence. Nutrition isn't just like, let's just have them eat some things and see what happens. No, we have years, decades of research to support some of the recommendations that we are making. So the dietary guidelines for Americans say that people can enjoy foods that meet their personal needs and cultural preferences while eating healthy. So you can literally choose your foods in a manner that are going to allow you to really enjoy your life and respect your cultural practices as well. Kind of exciting. So can food be used for more than just its health impacts? Definitely. So let's think about this. What comes to mind with the following pictures? Popcorn. When we say popcorn, if we were to look up images of popcorn, what would come up? Turkey. What do you think of when you think of turkey? How about McDonald's? What comes to mind with McDonald's? Cake, warm cookies right out of the oven. Well, if you look up popcorn, you'll notice that images start coming up of movies. So there's an association there. When you look up turkey, then you literally come up with Thanksgiving things. So, or if you look up Thanksgiving, you'll see a turkey. So it kind of goes both ways. It's very interesting. When you think about cake, you think of birthdays. So there is definitely an association with food around celebration, choices of your activity, and a variety of other things. So understand that individuals at various different times of the year, of the month, of the day, are choosing foods based on so many different reasons other than just nutrition. So let's respect some of those, but let's also find out what research says about nutrition. But what is research? Research, if you're not familiar with it, is the systematic investigation into and study of materials and sources in order to establish facts and reach new conclusions. It sounds so official. It is. This is from Oxford Languages, so it's literally a copy and paste of the definition of research. And you might want to know what nutrition research is happening at the University of Illinois. And we have a lot of nutrition research. So you can always kind of go to our University of Illinois webpage, and you'll notice we've got research about fatty liver disease. We have research about, oh my gosh, cancer, heart disease, gut microbiota, and cognition. So many different things are definitely going to make an impact with regard to your nutritional status. And we're researching some of those really cool things here at the University of Illinois. So you might want to know, what are some typical steps in nutrition research? Well, we've got a lot of typical steps. So we have observation, background, hypothesis. We're gonna test something, we're going to analyze the results, we're going to come to a conclusion, we're going to report it, but then we're not done there. Then we kind of go full circle right back. And so it's kind of interesting the way that that goes. So let's look at what each of these definitions are. So the first is, we're observing something. What do you notice when we look at things like a population trend? Do you notice that a number of individuals in a certain area are healthier, and what does their lifestyle look like? Then we do some background. We're going to do a literature review. We're going to see what other scientists have found out in this time frame. We also want to create a hypothesis, which is a statement that is either supported by our data that we're going to find out, or it's not supported. Then we're going to test the hypothesis. And so we are going to do a study, or we're going to do an experiment, and then we're going to analyze the data. When we analyze the data, we actually need to analyze it with statistics, and we need to decide before we do any of this what statistical model we're going to be using. We're going to come to a conclusion, and we're going to find out, does the data support the hypothesis? And then we're going to report using a peer-reviewed journal article. So we have a lot of things going on. And once we use that peer-reviewed journal article, our peers in the field are going to be able to tell us where we're falling short or what things that we can be doing better. And we can do what we call research and look for information again and again and again. Sometimes individuals think that just because two things are happening at the same time, that one is causing the other. So I do want to clarify the difference between correlation and causation, because oftentimes when people are saying, oh, well, all of this is happening over here, and therefore that is causing this other artifact, necessarily. So when we look at statistical analyses, correlation is a statistical measure that expresses the extent in which two variables are linearly related, meaning one thing is changing around the same time that something else is changing. They're correlated. It is a standard tool for describing these superficial relationships, but it's not telling you at all that there's any cause and effect. It's just saying that one thing is happening at the same time as another thing. That's literally all it's saying, which is different than causation. Causation is the cause and effect relationship between one event or action and the result itself. And so cause and effect relationship means that this act or process produces this effect. So for example, the more you exercise, the more mitochondria or little powerhouse of the cell that your body is going to develop. That is a cause and effect relationship. Those two things are proven or supported by data to say that yes, though there is causation there. It's not just happening at the same time. One act, the exercise, causes an increase in the mitochondria number and density. What is Harvard, though? Reputable source. What do they say about correlation and causation? Well, let's look at the Harvard article here. So when we look at the Harvard article, it says, did you know that the divorce rate in Maine strongly correlates with the per capita consumption of margarine? It's like, what? And then I look at the data, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's kind of true. But they go on kind of tongue in cheek to say, wow, maybe abstaining from margarine prevents divorce. I can definitely imagine a pop media article with this eye-catching title. Before throwing out all your margarine to save your marriage, an intelligent reader like you would probably think to yourself, quote, what absurdity. It's probably a coincidence that the trends match and there is no causal or cause and effect relationship after all. If we want to take this a step further with, again, a food-related correlation, meaning two things are happening at the same time, we have a correlation related to ice cream. So ice cream and murder rate in New York. So you can look at this graph here and see that, wow, that is a very pronounced correlation there. However, what's really happening? So some correlations are just kind of happenstance, like the margarine one. Other ones might have things in between, and that's what researchers are trying to find out. So for example, increased ice cream sales are correlated to an increase in murder rate in New York. True. It is very true. Does that mean the more ice cream we eat, the more murders are going to happen? It's not, eating the ice cream is not causing the murder, but what is going on here? Well, we have an increase in drowning deaths also associated with ice cream sales. Ooh, gosh, that's kind of scary. Maybe ice cream is bad for us in so many different ways. But if we review the data on ice cream and deaths, the data doesn't lie, or does it? Well, I would likely say, what is happening when people are having ice cream? Pause for a second and let you think about that. What times of the year, what situations, Might you want to have more ice cream? For me, I generally want to have more ice cream when it's warm outside. In New York, when more people are outside and it's warm, then chances are there's more chance for interaction between individuals. More interaction brings more problems brings more anger brings more murder. And drowning, you're probably swimming during the months that ice cream is going to be consumed more because it's probably warmer outside. So hopefully that helps explain the difference between correlation and causation. And then you can be your own detective a little bit more when you start looking at correlative studies and have your little intelligent cap on, thinking about whether one thing is really causing the other or they're just happening at the same time. Moving on to learning objective 3A, we've got some myths and misconceptions that we want to talk about, but we want to make sure we define what a myth is. So a myth is a wildly held, very widely and and wildly held, but false belief. So, for example, a very widely held wild belief is that vitamin C will protect you against a cold virus. Yeah. The more vitamin C, the better. People run to the stores to get their emergency packets, or they drink so much orange juice, or they squeeze lemons into their cups just because they're like, oh, I'm starting to feel a little sick. I want to make sure I get some vitamin C. Well, review the research on vitamin C and viruses using reputable sources. So we've got definitely some information here that's saying, really, National Institute for Health and its archives say that this is not necessarily happening. I mean, if you have vitamin C deficiency, then definitely having more vitamin C will help your immune system. But if you're already adequate, it's almost like if your car has enough gasoline in it, putting more gasoline in it will not make it run any faster. Putting more vitamin C in a body that already has adequate vitamin C will not make you have a superpower with regard to your immune system. I mean, think about it if that was the case for everything. Like, oh, okay, if I'm deficient in vitamin A, I have a little bit of night blindness. But if I don't have any night blindness, if I keep eating carrots, like so many carrots, maybe I will have superpowers as far as my vision is concerned. No, no, no. Adequate amounts and your body will function fine. If you overconsume things, it might actually cause more harm than good. A misconception is an incorrect understanding or interpretation. So an example of a misconception is that low fat or fat-free products are healthier choices compared to the traditional product. But I do want to highlight that some lower fat products boost their flavor by adding sugar or other ingredients that are not as healthful as you might think. So if we want to look at this peanut butter itself, you can see that it does have quite a bit of sugar in it, but it does have less fat in the product. So is it any better for you? It's lower in fat, but does that necessarily equate to a better health outcome? Not necessarily. Let's talk about some common myths, like all natural foods are healthiest. Okay, so natural products are products that don't contain artificial ingredients or added colors, and they have minimal processing. Minimal processing means that the product was processed in a manner that doesn't fundamentally alter the product itself. And this is a definition from the USDA. Some examples of natural products: Himalayan sea salt. And I've actually had some people go, oh, yeah, that's so much healthier than regular salt, so much healthier. I'm like, what? Himalayan sea salt healthier? Do tell, because honestly, we as a population in the United States overconsume sodium, overconsume salt. Making it come from another location that is naturally pink and kind of cute doesn't make it any better for the fact that we have notoriously higher blood pressure associated with individuals who are sodium responsive and over consuming that sodium. So too much sodium is still too much sodium, whether it comes from a Himalayan mine or whether it comes from, the grocery store in an iodized salt packet. Definitely salt is going to cause issues if you're over consuming it, regardless of its source. Ribeye steak, that's all natural, but I wager that you haven't necessarily looked at the nutrition facts panel of a ribeye steak. If you do, you will notice that over 50% of the calories are actually coming from lipids, and those lipids or those fats are saturated, which is not necessarily good for your overall health and well-being. So it's natural, however, not necessarily good for you. And then things like lard. So lard is the back fat of a pig. It's often used in bakery goods and other things that are delicious, but not known for their health and well-being. Versus we can have things like total cereal, which is heavily processed, but has vitamins and minerals added into it. Or we can have some other foods that literally have had their nutritional value increased through processing. So all natural foods are healthiest. I would say, meh, that's a myth. Also, people think they wouldn't sell it if it wasn't good for us, right? Wouldn't do that. Well, here's an example of a food supplement that is containing quite a bit of vitamin A. So this is called Dry A. It's from the company Solaray. And according to the National Institute for Health, over 10,000 international units of preformed vitamin A is a concern for your health. It's not good. And if we look at this product, that, by the way, has so many stars on Supplement Warehouse website and on other locations that you can find it, they're like, this is the best product ever. Okay, over 10,000 international units a problem. This one has 25,000 international units per serving. And it's associated with liver abnormalities. Not a good thing. We don't want that. If someone is pregnant, it can cause teratogenic effects in the developing child in utero. Not good. If you have a child who's under 6 years old, it can actually kill them with toxic effects. So even though this product has so much vitamin A, you might say, well, wait a second though, is all of that preformed vitamin A? And that's why I love that you're learning a little bit more, because it's going to help your overall health and well-being. So we have 25,000 international units. Some of this is beta carotene, which is a non-active form of vitamin A. So 15,000 international units are a non-active form of vitamin A, but they get right up to that cusp of that 10,000 international units that are retinol palmitate, which are preformed or active vitamin A. So this supplement, if you have any other active vitamin A in your diet, like let's say you have egg yolks, or you have pate, or you have something else that has active vitamin A that's been added into it, you're literally at a point where you might be concerned about negative health implications through taking a supplement, like the opposite of what you were going for. Just saying, this is a misconception. They sell things that are not healthy for you. Another misconception is whole grain means it's good for me. And here we have a package of Lucky Charms cereal, and on the front of it, it says whole grain is its first ingredient. So Lucky must be telling us the truth. Look how happy Lucky is holding on to his whole grain cereal. But if we look at the first 6 ingredients, and then we underline the terms that are sugar, you'll notice that we have sugar, which is obviously sugar. We also have corn syrup, which is another term for sugar. And we have dextrose, which is a specific type of sugar. So 50% of the first ingredients are sugar, and the ingredient list is by weight. So we have a lot of sugar in there. In fact, if we continue to do more math, 1/3 of the calories are from sugar. So we can take the 12 grams of sugar per serving times 4 calories per gram to give us 48 sugar calories. We take those 48 sugar calories, we divide it by 140 total calories, and that gives us 34% of the total calories from sugar. And then we go on further, and 40% of the total carbohydrates are from sugar. So we take those 12 grams of sugar, we divide it by 30 grams of total carbohydrates, and you get 40%. So we have a lot of sugar in this cereal that on the front of it says whole grain. Makes you pause, doesn't it? So hopefully I've convinced you that some of these myths and misconceptions are things that we either have believed because someone told it to us, or things that we're assuming, or it's kind of like what they call an old wives' tale, where mothers and wives are like, oh, you need to do this because this is good for you. Turn to reputable nutrition sources when making your decisions. So you did notice that whole grain is on the front of that package. And we do have other claims that are on the front of packages. We've got things that are called nutrient content claims. And so nutrient content claims are claims such as this one right here that says cholesterol free. And it's used with approved wording to describe the nutrient values or content of a food. So things like reduced fat, low sugar, cholesterol free, good source of iron, excellent source of vitamin D. All of these are nutrient content claims. And something that I find a little bit fun, it's like this corn oil right here in the picture says cholesterol free. Okay, cholesterol is only in animal products. Cholesterol is made by an animal's liver, and corn does not have a liver, so therefore any vegan friendly food or food that someone who is avoiding animal products consumes is going to be cholesterol free. Doesn't necessarily mean it's healthy for you. It just means it doesn't have dietary cholesterol. Kind of interesting. The nutrient content claims can be trusted, but like I just mentioned, it's kind of our assumptions that get us into trouble. Cholesterol, only in animal products, any plant product that's made without any animal products, so plant product alone, is going to be cholesterol free. We also have other claims on the front of packaging. So we've got these nutrient content claims telling you reduced, low in, free of something, good source of, excellent source of something. And so those are all going to tell you like if we have a lot or a little or a reduced amount of a certain nutrient. But we have things called health claims, and health claims are claims that are used with approved wording again, but they describe the potential health benefits of consuming the foodstuff. So, for example, may reduce the risk of osteoporosis. Osteoporosis is when your bones get weak or more porous, and it increases the risk of fracture. Foods that are higher in calcium and vitamin D are going to be able to make that claim. There are also claims about coronary heart disease. So foods that are lower in saturated fat, lower in dietary cholesterol might be able to make claims about coronary heart disease. And dental caries and artificial sweeteners are claims that can be made too. So there are some gums that say chewing this gum may decrease the likelihood of dental caries because they have artificial sweeteners in there. And then it can also like pull some food stuff away. We can also continue to look at that packaging and we see an ingredient list. Ingredient lists are listing the ingredients, not very creative in the sciences, in descending order by weight. So here, if we look at this ingredient list, you'll notice that whole grain oats is going to be in the highest weight comparatively to sugar. Manufacturers sometimes can manipulate it. So let's think about the Lucky Charms cereal here. So yes, whole grain oats can be the first ingredient, but then we have sugar, corn syrup, and dextrose as some of the other ingredients that are right up there near the top of that ingredient list. So if we add up the grams of sugar, corn syrup, and dextrose, it may actually add up to more grams of sugar than you have grams of whole grain oats. Just something to think about. We also can see a nutrition facts panel or a nutrient facts panel on food packaging. When we look at that nutrition facts panel, it lists the serving size, calories per serving, nutritional content per serving, percent daily value for select nutrients, and there's even a footnote discussing the recommendations and percent daily value. As we progress throughout the semester, we're going to deep dive into this topic and really showcase what things you can learn about that are clearly presented on this label, and even things you can calculate on your own that might not be as clear at first. But you might want to know at this point, okay, who else is a reliable source of nutrition information? Well, myself, your nutrition professor. Professors have to have either a master's or a PhD in a nutrition related field in order to teach at a university or college. A clinical registered dietitian. These are individuals who have done they've done like nutritional internships in a clinic setting. They've taken lots of years of classes. McKinley has access for you to these clinical registered dietitians, and you can see them for free. We've got published peer-reviewed journal articles that we've got an author who's talking about the information. They have not just the author who's written it, but also other peers who have evaluated it and saying that, yeah, that's reputable. And if we're looking at those peer-reviewed journal articles, high impact journals are going to be the best source. We also have .edu sites, National Institute for Health, the Food and Drug Administration, as well as the USDA. All of these individuals can be trusted with your nutrition information. If we're trying to eat more healthful, based on information from these reputable sources. We want to understand that healthy means complete physical, mental, and social well being. Like we said, it's not merely the absence of disease. So when we're talking about healthful eating, it includes all the above. So step back, think about this. How does your food choice impact your physical health? How does your food choice impact your mental health? How does your food choice impact your social health? Is it holding you back from doing things that you otherwise would want to do? If it is, let's talk to an expert about that. Talk to a clinical registered dietitian and find out how we can make sure that you have a healthy diet that's allowing you to be holistically well. And when we are talking about food, food can be expensive. So we want to discuss hints and tips on healthful eating that is going to be relatively inexpensive. So my suggestion, you can have inexpensive staple items to help keep costs down while allowing for like a healthful base, things like whole grain rice. You buy a bunch of it in bulk from a generic source, and you can use that as a base for some of your meals. You can have canned chicken that never really goes bad. I mean, it takes a long time for it to go bad, but ultimately you can use that canned chicken in a variety of recipes, such as this burrito mug. You can have canned beans. You can have frozen vegetables. All of these are going to be able to be stored even in a dorm room with a small refrigerator. You can have these things. And you can have a little rice cooker, a little microwave, a little tiny freezer, and you can make something like this burrito mug. No joke. So you can invite someone into your dorm room, or you can have it by yourself and have a little burrito mug that's relatively inexpensive. All this to say, that nutrition can be very complex. So this is why we have a STEP project. And this STEP project is worth 30% of your overall grade. We want to help you learn more about what you eat and how it may impact your health. We're not here to judge you. We're not here to tell you how to eat. We're just here to help you interpret what you're already doing or guide the learning so that you can make educated choices one way or the other about what it is that you're consuming. So with that in mind, I do want to say thank you for trusting me with your nutrition information at this time. I look forward to helping you for chapters to come.